A 15-year-old with a borrowed personal computer shut down Yahoo, CNN, and Amazon in a single week, while another hijacked a radio station to win a Porsche, and the most wanted hacker in America spent years on the run. These are not movie scripts, but real exploits that built the world of hackers, from chaos to global power. How did the internet's defenders allow this to happen? And what would drive teenagers and entire nations to challenge the rules of cyberspace? The answer begins on a quiet February morning in a bedroom with a simple flood of traffic. On a winter morning in February 2000, Michael Calce, a 15-year-old from Montreal, known online as Mafia Boy, sat at his home computer in his bedroom and launched a flood of internet traffic toward Yahoo, the world's top web portal. The site went dark for nearly an hour. Over the next days, CNN, Amazon, eBay, and Dell buckled under similar attacks. Calce had downloaded distributed denial of service tools from public sites and used them to hijack university servers, multiplying his reach with little technical know-how. The project he called Revolta ran while he was at school, leaving some attacks to unfold unattended. Headlines warned of an electronic Pearl Harbor, and losses were tallied in the millions. Investigators traced his boasts on IRC and linked him to details only the attacker could know. Calce was arrested later that year. In 2001, he was sentenced to 8 months in open custody and banned from unsupervised internet use. Years later, he would describe how easy it was for a teenager, armed with basic tools, to shake the foundations of the early web. On June 1, 1990, Los Angeles radio listeners dialed frantically for a shot at a Porsche 944 S2. But every call to KIISFM contest lines hit a dead end, except one. Kevin Polson, known online as Dark Dante, had quietly taken control of the station phone network. Exploiting vulnerabilities in the telephone exchange, he rerouted every incoming call, making sure only his own would go through as the 102nd caller. The win came with more than just a sports car. Polson also pocketed trips, cash, and a bundle of prizes. Suspicion set in when technicians noticed the contest lines malfunctioned during big giveaways. The FBI, already tracking Polson for earlier phone hacks, closed in. By April 1991, agents found him shopping in a Van Nuys supermarket and made the arrest. He later pleaded guilty to multiple counts of wire and computer fraud, serving a 5-year federal sentence and facing a 3-year ban on using computers after his release. Kevin Mitnick's story began with a series of break-ins at Digital Equipment Corporation and Pacific Bell, where he used social engineering and technical exploits to slip past digital and human barriers. After violating probation, he disappeared into a maze of safe houses, cloned cell phones, and false identities, spending 2.5 years evading the FBI. His capture in February 1995 ended one of the most publicized manhunts in cyber history. When agents finally entered his Raleigh apartment, they found dozens of computers, hundreds of cloned cell phones, and stacks of stolen software. Mitnick spent about 5 years in custody, much of it in pre-trial detention, and pleaded guilty to 7 federal charges in 1999. Released in 2000, he faced tight restrictions on technology use. Over time, the legend of a hacker who could launch missiles with a whistle faded, replaced by a consultant and author who used his skills to help companies defend against the very tricks he once perfected. A faceless crowd in Guy Fawkes masks streamed through city streets, while at home, thousands more launched digital barrages from their laptops. Anonymous, born from the unruly chaos of image board culture, took protest beyond the sidewalk and straight into the servers. In 2008, Project Chanology targeted the Church of Scientology with a mix of distributed denial of service attacks, prank calls, and coordinated demonstrations in over 100 cities. The mask became a symbol, part joke, part warning, of a new kind of activism that blurred the line between civil disobedience and outright disruption. By 2010, Anonymous had set its sights on a new target. When Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal blocked donations to WikiLeaks, Operation Payback was unleashed. Anyone could join. All it took was downloading the low-orbit ion cannon, a tool so simple that even first-timers could flood payment sites with traffic. But the promise of anonymity was an illusion. The tool broadcast real IP addresses with every attack, leaving digital fingerprints in server logs. Law enforcement moved quickly. Raids and arrests followed, as police traced the supposed swarm of masked protesters back to ordinary homes. The myth of the untraceable collective cracked, exposing the risks behind the mask and the uneasy boundaries between protest, crime, and accountability.
By the way, if you want to learn real ethical hacking, check out the Pro Hacker Starter Kit. The Pro Hacker Starter Kit gives you the exact workflows, one-liner commands, and tactics pros use every day, organized, explained, and ready to use. Whether you're starting out or leveling up your skills, this bundle is your secret shortcut to hacking smarter, faster, and with more confidence than ever before. Link in description.
LulzSec burst onto the scene in 2011, spinning chaos into a spectacle. For 50 days, the group taunted corporations and governments alike, breaking into Sony Pictures, PBS, Fox, the US Senate, and even the CIA's public website. Their attacks relied on familiar flaws, SQL injection, reused passwords, and unpatched systems. But what set LulzSec apart was their tone. Every breach was served with a side of mockery, broadcast in real time on Twitter, and wrapped in the language of internet in-jokes. Data dumps and internal emails spilled out for the world to see, all for the lulz. Behind the curtain, the group's supposed leader, Hector Monsegur, known as Sabu, was already in FBI custody. After connecting to IRC from his home IP address, Sabu had been identified and arrested in June 2011. Facing a long prison sentence, he agreed to cooperate. For months, Sabu remained active in chat rooms, logging conversations and steering operations while the FBI watched. The group kept up its bravado, unaware that every message was being recorded. In March 2012, coordinated arrests in the US and UK swept up the core members. LulzSec's downfall became a lesson in trust and operational security. Even the loudest voices can be undone by a single insider and a few careless mistakes. Albert Gonzalez operated in the shadows of the payment data economy, where the right exploit could turn a single line of code into a mountain of stolen cash. Between 2005 and 2007, Gonzalez and his crew broke into the networks of major retailers and payment processors, including TJX Companies and Heartland Payment Systems. Their method started with SQL injection, a simple but devastating way to trick vulnerable web applications into handing over the keys to the kingdom. Once inside, they planted custom sniffer malware deep within payment networks. Every time a credit or debit card was swiped, the malware quietly collected card numbers, PINs, and track data, funneling the information to remote servers controlled by the group. The stolen data, more than 170 million card numbers, was sold on underground forums, fueling a global market for counterfeit cards and fraudulent purchases. The profits were enormous. When law enforcement closed in, agents seized $1.6 million in cash from Gonzalez, including more than $1 million buried in his parents' backyard. In 2010, he was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, one of the harshest penalties ever handed down for cybercrime in the United States. Gonzalez's operation forced banks and merchants to rethink payment security and led to sweeping changes in industry standards. His story stands as a stark reminder that in the digital age, a single breach can ripple through the world's financial systems, driven not by politics or protest, but by the lure of easy money. Lazarus Group stands apart from every hacker before them, not for their technical tricks, but for the weight of their targets and the questions they raised. In November 2014, the world watched as Sony Pictures' servers were erased, unreleased films leaked, and thousands of private emails spilled online. US agencies named North Korea as the likely culprit, pointing to the country's anger over a satirical film. The fallout was immediate: cancelled releases, public apologies, and a scramble to rebuild crippled networks. 2 years later, the same group struck the heart of the global banking system. Using stolen credentials and custom malware, attackers gained access to Bangladesh Bank's SWIFT terminal, sending fraudulent payment instructions that drained $81 million from an account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Only a typo and quick action by other banks prevented the loss of nearly $1 billion. In May 2017, Lazarus unleashed WannaCry, ransomware powered by a leaked NSA exploit. Within days, more than 300,000 computers in more than 150 countries were locked, from British hospitals to German railways. The ransom demands were small, but the chaos cost billions. Attribution to North Korea remains a matter of high confidence, not absolute proof. Digital fingerprints, code reuse, and infrastructure links form the backbone of the case, but experts still debate the risks of misdirection and false flags. What is clear, the Lazarus Group's attacks blurred the line between crime, protest, and cyber war, turning the keyboard into an instrument of state power and making every connected system a potential front line.